I'm Ed Biden. I'm one of the co-founders of Hustle Badger. Uh, Hustle Badger, we provide super practical advice and support for product managers of all levels. Um, we run these webinars weekly where we like to invite um, people in to share their kind of hard-won experience. And we're delighted to have Francesca with us today. Francesca's had numerous CPO roles across Europe. She was CPO at Hemnet in Sweden for several years and just started a new role at Vend. And I'll let her kind of introduce herself a bit more fully than that. But she's going to be sharing some of her kind of experiences of things that work and when they don't with us all. With that, over to you, Francesca.
Thank you, Ed, for the intro, and thank you also for the shout for the cameras. It always feel like talking to myself or to the black hole sometimes. But if you cannot put on the camera, maybe I'll ask you at some point if you can at least help me out with some reactions. Those could be like easier to do. Like I'll be asking some question and just to have a sense of the room. And thank you for showing the reaction already. And I'll be starting by sharing my screen. And I'll do like this. And I have to ask the question that everyone asks always when they start a presentation. Can you see my slides? I see a thumbs up from Ed, so I guess you're all seeing this. And the first rule of product people is like not assuming we are our users, right? So I did exactly the opposite. So the way I set up this presentation, I did the way that I like presentations to be. So I'll having like some slides and some stories for you. But I also left a lot of time for questions because, you know, in those days, you can always go back and look at the recording, but it's not often that you have the opportunity to have a conversation. And I think that is the real value add. So there's going to be plenty of time for that if you hopefully get some thoughts stirred up by the stories that that I'm telling you. And my talk is about growth. And it's built on stories that I have collecting during my years as CPO and specifically working with helping organizations grow. And I want to kick off with something. And I wanted to mention the elephant in the room here. AI, or rather, the thing that I'm not going to be talking about. And I know that sounds a bit strange in these days. I think no meeting goes by without someone talking about AI, for me at least. I don't know what it is for you. I know that Ed has a lot of webinars and a lot of really practical takes on anything from how to be an AI PM to cloud coding 101 and whatnot. I want to make expectation clear. This is not about AI. And I mean, it's not because AI is not important, but because I think there's something that we're a bit missing with all this AI talk. And it's mainly what we need to succeed when speed becomes a commodity. For many, many, many years, or at least the years that I've been around in product, having a big team, having the resources, the money, the capacity, the developer was like the speed of getting things to market was really what would set you apart. And this is the part that is shifting, right? Everyone, and actually like people with less money, company with less money, now they can bring solution to the market faster than maybe the company with more money that are bigger. So what do we know that we're focusing on the right things when AI is making the playing field same for everybody? So this is what I'm like, I want to talk about. And specifically, this is why I think it's important. And I'm going to give you some numbers. You've probably seen this one. It's been around for many years. There's a lot of research. There are a lot of studies. That's the old baseline of the lean startup, etc. 70% of ideas fail fast. You know, that's the old thing. And do you have a guess of how many of the AI ideas fail? Anyone maybe can put something in the chat. 95%, that's like exactly right. And this is not a number if you wonder where that it come from. It's not, some consulting agency that want to sell you, oh, AI fail, come with us. This come from MIT. And I'm not surprised, to be honest, because if you look around, my feeling is that we all move so fast. We're so efficient. We speed up. We go really fast to nowhere, right? I mean, and the point here is that if you have an idea, you bring it quickly to market, but that idea doesn't solve a problem, no one will use it. It's not of value for the business. We cannot make any money. We're gonna just end up with abandonware, vibe coded, quickly done abandonware, and that doesn't help anybody. So maybe you're there thinking you're killing my vibe. I vibe coded the whole day. I feel so good. That's not the point. I think my point here is that to succeed, we really need to go back to first principles. And let me just explain what I mean with first principles. And this might feel really basic, but I have a strong opinion that we're missing a lot of this when we are focusing so much on speed on AI implementation. And the first principle to me is like, is there a problem here to solve? Second, is the problem big enough for us to make money? Because the majority of the companies are not charities, so we want to make money. And can we solve it? Now we focus a lot on we can build it fast, but if we can build, doesn't mean that we should build. And there is one thing that I think it's really important and can help us answer a lot of this question, which is product discovery. And especially if I can add another word there is continuous product discovery. I hate, to be honest, talking about double track, someone that does discovery and then gives the whatever, the baton to someone that does delivery and then someone else does discovery. That doesn't work in my word. It's more like we should continuously test our hypothesis. And maybe some of you are there thinking, yeah, that's great, that would be great, this is the ideal scenario, but we cannot really do it in our company. It doesn't look like that. And I want to say that I agree that many times we want to talk with the user, we can't, and we would love to do things by the book, but then reality hits, right? And I just want to give me a sense if you encounter these situations. You are in B2B and you want to talk to customers, but sales gatekeeps them, so you cannot really get to the customer even if you wanted to. Not many B2B here. I've definitely been there. Then you really, really want to, with your team, to understand the problem, but the org gives you solution, not validated ones, and you're just like, your job is to make them, come to market. Maybe you're giving me thumbs up or down or whatever, but I don't see them. I don't know. I've definitely been here. Uh, then it's like there's this one where speed is everything. So the most important thing is shipping fast, and it doesn't really matter what people are, measured on shipping, and how many feature we have out, etc. And then we have this one that is like the most common one right now. Let's solve it with AI. Just put some AI feature there. We can talk with our investor. We can show the market we are super innovative or whatever that is. I've seen some thumbs up. If you don't have any thumbs up, and I think you're really lucky, and you're running an org that really like works perfectly, and I really envy you. I've seen all of this and a bit more. And my point in bringing this up is to say that, I mean, the reality exists, right? We will not be able to do things by the book all the time, but this is not an excuse. So I want to say this, all that I'm about to tell you, all the stories, they were done in org that did all of this and a bit more. We didn't have like the perfect conditions. We created the perfect conditions, so to speak. So that's a really important part. Just because things are not perfect doesn't mean you shouldn't do discovery. And Ed touched a little bit on it, like, and I want to add this slide just to say, why should you listen to me, and why is like what I've done could be of interest. I've been a CPO of different companies. If you are from the Sweden or the Nordics, you probably recognize some of the logos up there. They are some of the biggest marketplaces in the Nordics. My favorite thing about those products is that we measure our usage in per capita usage. So I've never had that before. So you measure on the amount of people living in Sweden or Norway, like the usage, so big they are. And I've been working for the past 7 years with implementing continuous discovery in these orgs. And I'm here not to talk to you about how discovery is nice because it's a nice process. But I'm here to talk with what we achieved connected with continuous discovery. And those are all the things that are there. We achieved double-digit growth. We increased time to value, and we decreased the business risk. And this, I think, it's really important because these are the business outcomes that are connected with the process that are the most important thing. And so I'm not going to talk about AI. All these things here, I think you can apply to AI development, but you can apply in general with development. And my first point that I want to talk about is business growth, because I've yet to find a company that is not interested in business growth. But many times in my years as a old lady, what I've seen is many times business growth was connected with new product, new market, new things, going deeper, going broader, doing more things. Like more is better. What I've learned is actually business growth, and the secret sauce of business growth is making difficult choices. And here sounds a little bit obvious, right? But the difficult things of the difficult things is that as human beings are not that inclined of putting all our eggs in one basket. And that's normal. I mean, who would like to, just put a lot of risk on one thing? And what happens is that it's easy to say no to ideas that, are not super aligned or like do not sound super with a lot of potential. But then we have so many ideas that feels like we have a lot of potential, and we try to do them all. And when I've seen that we try to do them all, that's where I've seen companies go south and really not driving growth. So one thing that I started to do is instead working with discovery. And why discovery? Because with discovery, what you can do is to bring down the risk of the development. So basically, you have an idea and you start defining if this idea has potential or has not potential. That also happens a lot of time, but you do it before you invest a lot of money and time in product development. And if you do that, you're able to more easily, it's never easy, but it's easier to focus and to define the hard choices. And just to give you a little bit more of what I mean with this, to me, product discovery, like this palette of tools, it goes from shall we build it to is it going to be used? And we talked about AI. In AI, it's the feasibility column that like becomes easier because I mean we can do prototype much easier, we can put things out, but that doesn't mean we should be doing it. So what here, like all this backdrop, and hopefully you feel like this is not a book exercise, this is not theory, this is something that really I've been going through with my teams. And what I want to tell you today are three things. To make discovery work, I found that three skills are really important. So I want to start there. I would then want to share three of the counterintuitive lessons that I've learned, and one mindset that I think is the most important if you really want to make discovery work wherever you are. I'll take a sip of water. And then we go into the skills. And I'm going to give them to you directly so you're not there hanging thinking which one will be those skills. So the skills are three, and as many times they sound easy, they are hard to execute. The first one is understanding where your org is and moving from there. You probably heard Teresa Torres saying many times, meet your org where it is. This is what exactly it is, and I'm gonna give you example of how I've done it. The second one is thinking about discovery adoption as your product adoption and like managing that curve. And the third one, it's leading with impact, not with the process. So let's start with meeting your org where it is. I said I've been working with discovery for the past 7 years, a little bit more now. And what I've found is that depending on the organization maturity and the adoption of discovery practices, there are 4 phases. And you go from like really early experiment to full scale discovery in the whole company. And if the last step sounds like a wishful,
like some
is there someone like was
Trump.
there a question?
Is it a Trump? We don't have a word. We have a different word in Spanish.
Maybe there's someone that unmuted themselves
No es
without.
un calambre, es como cuando se te duerme.
Is there a way to mute them, Ed? Now I don't hear anymore. Sorry, now I even did 2 clicks, so you deal with me with this because I was trying to mute and I couldn't. But anyway, so ignore this too, and let's start from the start. So depending on when you are in your discovery adoption, you have four phases. And those 4 phases, I kind of like obviously put a nice name and a slide on it. They're not so linear. You can go back and forth between them. But what I want to say is that I've been through all of them. So even having discovery in all company is possible. But the first thing, sorry, let's do like this. Thank you. So the first thing that it's important here, and my point is like you have to kind of understand what your org is to decide which kind of discovery you have to start with. I've seen many times PMs, maybe we were like in the start phase when there was no discovery at all, and PM wanted to do like a 2 weeks discovery process. They ain't gonna fly. I mean, if your org is not there, you cannot like expect, to do what you see or you read or you listen to a podcast that is the perfect way. You have to adapt to whatever you have in front of you. And I'm giving you a little bit of the headline of what we did in the different phases. So when I start in an org, we didn't really have discovery at all. So what we had is basically like somebody that got curious and started to do things a little bit on their own and under the radar. And the main key here, I think, in the start, you want to start like what they started to do is like they started to validate assumptions, but they started to validate assumption one on the items that were already in their backlog. So they didn't come up with something completely different. And two, this was under the radar. So the most important thing, and if I had to give you one advice, if your org doesn't have discovery at all, do not block delivery with discovery. If you do it, you're doomed. I mean it. I know it depends. I know whatever, you can do it. If you block delivery with discovery while you're there, you're screwed. So, I mean, there it's more like you have some, you can start, assumption testing, your impact will be smaller, you can do it, but you can still do something, right? Because that person for us brought out the risk and actually was able to, for us, really, the example is that we had an org that was really, really having A/B testing, which is obviously is one way of discovery, but is really, really expensive because you have to build twice, you have to do things. They were able with assumption testing to invalidate an hypothesis, and we didn't have to A/B test. So that's like how we started to get a little bit of traction, but they did not block the delivery part. The second part, it's about the one pilot team. For us, it was like a trio, and also for us, that trio was not born out of something is burning in the house, we have to try new ways of working. It was born more of out of curiosity. But I mean, depending on where you are, I think it's really important that your first product trio or your first experiment team, however you flag it, you have to give them the condition to succeed. because that point, and I mean, I'm gonna come back later with an example what exactly meant for us. But this first product trio is basically like connecting discovery with business impact. And if the answer of that connection is yes, we see the value, then you'll be able to go to the ramp up. If there's like, nah, whatever, we don't see anything, then you're gonna get stuck again and probably like loop back of not having discovery at all. In our journey, we went from one product trio to multiple trios. Here, if you're here, like, you have had an experiment team and I mean, things are getting traction. One advice that I have is do not think that what worked in the first trio will work for all the trios. So we went from one to, at the end of the process, 8 teams that had like product trios and everyone working with discovery. But we did not went from 1 to 8 at once. We scale it up one by one to create the condition to learn and to help the trio to get there. There's like completely new expectations. And then when we went there, we had a lot of buy-in in the org. We came to the last one, which is basically we use discovery to evaluate all of our opportunities we had. So, if we should build new product lines or if you should go a new revenue models, etc. And I know this sounds a little bit like a dream. It was. We were in the dream not that long, if I have to be honest. We looked back. But it's something that is important here is that to get there, it's important that discovery gets out of product or when I say product, I mean product development and UX, like the product function at large, as I see it. And it's more about bringing other stakeholders. Which brings me to the other point, because when you're there, you will realize that you are like you've probably seen this curve for your products. Like you have like the early adopters, then you get to market fit, then if you cross the chasm, you can get like to scaling and so on. This is exactly the same thing with discovery or any other change process. You will have some that are enthusiastic and then will start, but then it's really important that you cross the chasm. And to cross the chasm, I have one advice for you, which is build trust by showing, not telling. So the point there is like at every step for us, we and sometimes from one step to the other, we learn the hard way. So that's a hard lesson that we had to learn. That I mean, we never had the process as the first point. When we succeeded, it's because we were able to show how discovery created business value. And I'm gonna show you soon one example of what I mean. But I also want to be a little bit harsh because many times when I talk with product people, and I always bake myself in when I say product people, we have a tendency of talking a lot about processes and how things are and how things are called and what they should be labeled, etc. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about the process. Nobody cares if we have like our key result of talking with 5 customers, if we don't get any insight out of this. Nobody cares if we have an assumption that is validated, but is not connection with business value. So everything you do in different side of the discovery always start with the impact and the impact on the business. Otherwise, it will be seen as theoretical exercise. Maybe you will get some traction depending on like how many early adopters you have in your org, but you're not going to be able to scale it. And just to give you concrete example, and almost I want to say a breakthrough example for us in the org. We had this case when discovery really helped us bridge from goal to execution. And maybe you recognize this. I was working with this marketplace, and the main revenue growth were like, and it was a property portal, so like a place where you go to buy and sell your property. The main revenue line is basically listing revenue. So you list your apartment because you want to sell it. And to list, you have different packages. So that was in place. We had our packages, we had our revenue, etc. And then obviously we have our growth target that were like increase revenue by X. And that's exactly what the CEO came to me with. We need to increase, X can be whatever, from 5 to 50%. It doesn't matter. But I mean, you have an idea that you want to increase the revenue, but that's pretty much it. So what we had is that we had this clear business goal, but we didn't get a clear how to get there. So if I would speak with 10 people, like, okay, how do we grow these revenue packages? I'll get 10 answers. And those 10 answers were mostly inside out ideas. So I think we should do this. I think we should do that. Some were anchored like from sales with conversation with the customers, but really on an anecdotal level. One person said that there was not validated, and there was no validation of like if there was actually a willingness to pay. So what we did, we used discovery. So we mapped the ideas. We used a lot the opportunity solution 3 by Teresa Torres. I'm not gonna explain it here, but I mean, you should check it out if you don't know what it is. That's basically, we connected the goal with the different opportunity. We enriched them with users' interviews. And what we discovered is that we had a really big potential, which is basically the possibility, like when you sell your apartment, there are sometimes things do not go as planned, and you have to relist. And that is a lot of stress because you sell, it's like that's the biggest thing you like investment you have in your life. So a lot of money at stake, a lot of stress. And it's also a lot of stress for the realtors that like are perceived that they're not doing a good job. So we said, if we can find something here, we're gonna like really hit a nerve on our buyers that for this product. So we did. Hemnet Premium was like the package, our like top tier package. We included this free renewal, and we packaged this as a new chance. You don't have to think, you don't have to, worry about this. It was a hit. Conversion skyrocketed, and it was the main revenue driver of this. The CEO asked of us. So that was like a great success for commercial purposes, but it was also a great success for us in terms of discovery, because we proved that with discovery, we were able to create clear business value. And from that moment, that's like, was like, oh, why don't we apply discovery on this? Why don't we apply discovery on that? So we created like a previous case that basically was like showing, not telling, what these things can do for us. So important, like understand when your org is, find a way of like proving value continuously. And if you're at the real start, do not start with blocking delivery. And at any point, remember that this is about people. And like you're changing the way that operate, and maybe even their perceived scope in their role. So it's important that you understand how to work with them. So now we come to counterintuitive lessons. And there are some lessons that are maybe if someone will tell you, yeah, like it's always easy to tell like retroactively. I expect that some of the things that I'm gonna show you, you'll have a what as like as a reaction. So I expect the what, and then I'll give you the thinking. And obviously, I start with saying this. It depends, right? So I mean, I was debating with myself if I should put there things that you should not do. But obviously, everything of this depends on your context. But in my experience, if I had to go back, and in a lot of contexts that I've been in, I would not recommend these things when you start with discovery or when you work with discovery. So let's start, and hopefully you get what when I click on these boxes. So I was here sitting for the past, I don't know, 15 minutes, talking about how discovery is great and how it creates business value and how it risks and everything. Now what I'm telling you is like, do not start discovery where you have your biggest impact. And what do I mean with this? I was really, really tempted after that we had our first trio and that worked. We had this team working with our listing revenues, the biggest like revenue driver. And I was really tempted to start them on this new ways of working because obviously we have proof that this will, de-risk, get better result, etc. At that time, that didn't happen purely by chance. That didn't happen because we didn't have enough support system to help that team scale up their trio. But if I look back, that was the best decision that, I mean, I didn't really make the decision, but let's say I did. That's the best decision I ever had. And why is that? Because if I would have put that team with the most important thing in the new ways of working, I would have put a lot of pressure in that team. So unless a team has the possibility of getting the space and time and support system to bring up their discovery habits, you are putting them in too much pressure. And also, you're putting your discovery practice in too much pressure because, I mean, if the high stake things would have failed, I wouldn't be here having that slide and everyone was happy and we wanted discovery everywhere. Probably be like, okay, we put discovery, we blocked delivery, we didn't get it. So the calculated risk was, yes, we did something that came from above. That was fine. We delivered. After we delivered, we put up the pressure and we built up that team. So that the exact same team, some month later, was the one working with the previous slide thing that I just showed you. But I would not advise to start with the double pressure if you can. The second thing, and I know this also Stein, what? Do not treat discovery as a discovery adoption as a process. And for me, I did not start this journey thinking now we're going through a transformation. I mean, that was never the intention. It was more like it started step after step and value after value. But I must say that I fell into the trap of treating this as a process. So now we have one team and then we scale this and then we have the other team and then we scale that. And then when we have the whole team, we have to put all our processes into the OKRs and whatnot, which obviously you have to do. You have to align all your like value streams. But what happened is that we started to talk too much about the process and not that much about the value. So we were there like trapped into opportunity solution and like correcting people in meetings when they were saying the wrong words, etc., that people got annoyed. So we got like the exact opposite effect of what we wanted. So again, was a reminder. Yeah, you need some boundaries. Yes, if you get like to that scale phase, obviously discovering OKRs and assumption and everything needs to be aligned. But especially when you start getting out of product, do not use the product lingo or the process lingo because that ain't gonna fly. And then I have the hardest lesson that I had to learn myself. This one really, really hurt me for a while until I decided to let go. Do not try to optimize for perfect scalability. So imagine me, I'm a CPO of that company. I mean, we were working about this for maybe 1.5, 2 years. I finally get to the point when I have trios in all the teams, when I know that they're like validated assumption, that when we know we're having data, when we have opportunity solution tree, we have like our 2 weeks sprints, like I was like nirvana, like, finally we're here and it's so nice. And then things started to be like one team was like, oh, we don't want to work with the trio. We want to work like with this other way. Oh, we don't want to have 2 weeks. We want to have 6 weeks. And my first reaction was like, no, you're destroying like all this that we're scaling up. And again, I was like falling into the trap of thinking that that was the goal. The goal was not the perfect scalability. The goal was like for every team to be able to have the tools they needed to make sure that we have customer anchored data and we validated things before building. So we ended up with like not the perfect light, not the perfect process, not the perfect thing, but exactly what every team needed to get there. And that was also really different for us because we had platform teams, we have B2C teams, we have B2B teams, and the kind of processes and discovery techniques they needed were completely different. So I had to let go of my dream of everyone coordinated, and that took a while, must be honest. But that was the best decision. So there's like you're not even if you're there in the scale phase, it's gonna be a mess, but that's okay. And I want to end with this. I told you some stories, and maybe some of you are there thinking, "I wish my company worked like that," or we don't do discovery, don't talk to customers. One lesson that I learned really, really hard way is when you work with discovery, it's extremely important to remember that you're never done. So even though like I had that nice slides with the steps are not linear. We looped back a lot, and it doesn't take a lot of things before you have to prove yourself again. We were in that scale phase, and then something happened. Leadership changed, new condition in the market, like AI could be one, or like more pressure led to more people wanted to look back to what they're used to, having to take control, etc. And we had to prove it all again. So even though we already had results, we had to do it all again. And this is like, if you feel that this is frustrating, if this is energy consuming, if this is soul killing, I'm with you. This is what it's gonna be. So this, I think it's really important. That is like, and it doesn't have to be always on your shoulder. You can share the burden. You can definitely share the burden with me. I've been there. But I think it's important. It's like if that happens, it's not because you're failing. It's because the conditions are different, and then you have to do it again. So to sum it up, discovery, I think in AI world, if you ask me, always, but even more in AI world, is what you need to create impact. And even though your org might be in different places, you can always start somewhere. And the most important thing is that this is not a destination, like you're not there, you arrive and you're done, but it's a journey. And I'm finishing here, and I saw some chat. I don't know if there were questions because I couldn't read while talking. I'm not that multitasker, but I just want to say that there are. I mean, I wrote a book, and my aim with the book is to share stories and give other teams something to compare with. Where are we? What are the roadblocks that we found? So there are these stories and much more in the book. It's for free. There is like the link you can download. My only ask, if I can ask something, is that if you find it useful and you recognize yourself in some of the phases, I would love to chat. My main outcome for having this book out like this is to have conversation and understand how we can move discovery forward. So that's what I had. So now I stop sharing. So maybe I see more of you.
Thanks, Francesca. That was really great. Um, just for everyone here, if you do have questions, please do put them in the chat or put up your hand. And if you put up your hand, then you can just come off mute and speak. Maybe while you're thinking, one question from me. You gave that case study of at Hemnet where the CEO gave you this very high level growth goal and said figure out how to get there. And you talked through kind of enriching some ideas with user research. How did you come up with that initial pool of ideas?
That's a really good question. And that's also like one pro tip, in lack of better words, that I would give. Don't start from scratch, because in that specific situation, obviously, people already had in their head some solution. If the problem was like we grow revenue 20%, people already had some solution in their head. So it was important, like the very first thing was to map the solution. So do not start from like white paper, but start from like anchoring what was already the wisdom of the org. it's also, I really want to say it, a lot of these solutions were like good, because I mean they're not they're based on like a customer or a conversation or even like industry experience, so they should not be discarded only because they are not validated. So we started from there, from what we had. We then added two steps. The first steps were data. So, if there was one conversation with one customer and like everyone else feels not such a big potential based on gut feel, then we didn't go deeper. But then the one that we saw like more potential, we did customer interviews. And in the customer interviews, then we realized like we found some insights. And from the insights, then we drilled down. So the very first starting point were internal ideas, um, which I can assure you will always be there.
Yeah, super. Sorry, my camera's doing weird things. I'm not sure why that is. It's like auto trying to focus me or something.
AI, it's just because we're not talking about AI, then it's like,
Yeah.
anyone who dares to take one question live.
So I'll be brave.
Thank you.
I I work in AI. I'm more old school, AI ML. Uh, so sort of like what we would class as core, not gen or any of that. So I work with data scientists in my cross-functional team, and they love an A/B test. Absolutely love an A/B test. And trying to get them to do assumption testing is really tricky because their default is to immediately go to a hypothesis that they will then do a very expensive A/B test that'll take them 4 weeks to design, instrument, and then 6 months with a holdout to actually generate something of significance. Um, any advice in sort of like this kind of world where people are working with organizations that are quite rigid because of their discipline in, what experiments mean?
First, I feel you. I was there, not with not with the data scientists, but I mean, I felt like, and I mean, it comes from a good place. I mean,
Yes.
I was like, because obviously, I was talking about this big products and love products, and obviously, where it's a while ago since I worked for a startup. In a startup, you can put out things in, even if they're not perfect, people don't care, don't see, are like more forgiving. But if you see like things that are really wrong in the products that you expect to behave in a certain way, you're not forgiving. So I mean, that at least for me, like in my experience, that A/B test culture came from a deeper need of wanting to be right, like don't
Yes.
want to put things out that were like potentially not right, and also connect on top of it, like maybe an unspoken expectation that we need to have all the answers. So basically, what I worked a lot with was bringing people with me, and it was like two pieces, and it didn't happen, nothing of that I'm talking about. If you like I it took like, I'm talking about 7 years, 1.5 years, like like having that team. I mean, the whole process of going from one person in their, not basement, but in their corner doing things, to all the company getting there, it took 2 years,
Mm.
right? I mean, it's like nothing of this, and that's where I mean, because the time it took is because we needed to bring the people with us. And the very first thing, that first person, and then the first team that started to do assumption testing, was the team that was heavier on A/B testing. So the two things and the two advices that I would give was, one, I had to work a lot on defining expectation. So my expectation is not that you have all the answers. Like, I don't want to have, you know, a PhD thesis here that were completely 3000% statistically significant, bulletproof. I'm gonna die on this hill. I don't care. You know, there are some of questions we really, 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 really need to be sure. And I mean, for us, where those A/B tests were more on the payment flows, for example. There were no way we could definitely, so that we had to build. But that's fine because that's a one-way door. And if we do it wrong, we're not going to come back. The A/B tests the other team was talking about were more on the experience side. You know, oh, should we have this filter or this other filter? Shall we have this interface? You know, if it's like we can always launch to 3% of the user and we can always take it back. You know, so it's like the importance of like defining which problem are worth putting more energy and effort into. That was the first step. And also securing that, you know, the beginning I was like, I got you. Like, you know, if someone comes at you and says something, send them to me. You know, it's like that was like not all the problem are worth the same time investment. That was one thing. And then the other thing is because the not like some problem we were fine, or like some hypotheses we were fine, like just having okay, like good hinge, like that's ish. Then basically came in the time to market. So how do we get them in the fastest and cheapest way? And the answer, I mean, there's like good A/B test tools out there. We did not have an A/B test platform. So for us meant building, and obviously that's not the cheapest thing. So that was like basically bringing back to how important it is. It's okay if it's not like bulletproof. We categorize bulletproof needs and two-ways door. And then in the two-ways door, think that, I mean, also for me, I don't know if it's the same for you, A/B test was basically the only thing back then that we used to validate. And then we put in, there are other tools to validate. And started to use a lot of, for example, really quality interviews that helped us with that. And you know, 10 users, it's not 100% statistically significant. Good enough. I was never into a case where we had to regret after we did it, and then we wanted to do an A/B test.
Thank you. Thank you.
Francesca, you've got another question in the chat from Aidan.
Let me see. I'm going to read it out loud if it's okay. For a startup B2B business that is at the start of the discovery process and only one to client who are 80% of the revenue, how do you recommend tackling discovery so that you balance the things you currently client want versus spending time building a product for the broader market? The fear is having a product that is too specific to one client needs. Exactly. So there, I would say that that's a classic. I mean, in marketplaces, it's often like B to B to C, and in the B to B side, especially in the broker like prop tech, there's also not many customers in that perspective. So I would say that you probably, I'm assuming here. So my assumption is that you probably have a list of features that the client has requested. I would probably map them to what is the problem that they're solving, and understanding if there could be more general problem that you solve in the market in a specific way for them. It's also like here as well, it's probably, I don't know how big is your product org, but if you have the possibility, I would probably think about dividing the risk of this in the way you allocate the capacity. So again, don't block delivery because you're really early in discovery. So probably have, 70% of your people making sure that you still deliver, so you still have the customers, so you still have the business, but start deploying some to understand the broader market needs and the assumptions there to make sure that you can start identifying is some of the feature requested by the two customer will be more appealing to other customer, and you can use that to increase your market. So that's how I would probably think. If you don't have a lot of capacity or people to spend, maybe you can have like at least you, if you are the product leader, or someone dedicating a little bit of time to do customer and market research. I don't know if you have any follow-up, or if that answered the question.
That answered the question. There's a mile-long list of features that seem, a lot of them seem very silly, but yeah, I appreciate that. Maybe one last question. Do you have any nice tools that you recommend to be able to kind of facilitate the discovery process? You know, being able to bring all your feedback together so that it's not just in a million ClickUp tasks or wherever it is. Yeah, any ideas?
Yeah, I want to discover my bias to this first. I'm not a big tool person in general. Like, and I would say, I mean, we went a lot of time with not a lot of tooling. So at the beginning, what we used was Miro. So basically, like the opportunity solution tree, like we put it there, and then we connected that with numbers and insights, etc. That worked for quite a long time. When we had like all the teams in the discovery process and the company doubled, etc., then we that depends all on your tool stack in your company. What we started to use was Jira Product Discovery to connect basically the discovery with the delivery with the insights. We also had another tool that now I don't remember the name of, sorry, but basically that was a tool that put together user insights. So we had in the same place the insight that came from sale, the insight that came from customer support, and the insight that came from customer interviews, in a way that it was easy for us to see if it was one person requiring it or like many. And it was easier to go back if you heard, in a meeting with a colleague, oh, someone really, really wants this, to check if there was only that person or more. But I would say that if you're right at the beginning of it, I would not worry that much about the tool. The good thing about the opportunity solution tree, and I think the thing that helped us the most at the beginning with, is that it's pretty simple and visual, and the biggest value comes from, just like you map the opportunity and you map the solution, and you start discussing, is this opportunity bigger than the other, or is this solution better than the other? Do we have data? And that is like, that doesn't require, at least to start with, a lot of extra tooling. I know I'm going to ruffle some feather of people that are like listening to this. So I would say, like, if you're in a big corporate and obviously you already have a bunch of things, probably start from there, but don't overcomplicate the process to start with.
Awesome. I appreciate that.
Well, let's wrap up then. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Francesca, thank you once again for being so generous with all your lessons there and experience. I think that's been like fantastic to hear some of the things you've been through that we can learn from. And certainly, I was making mental notes. So I was like, oh yes, this is what I'm going to be posting on LinkedIn tomorrow about. I As I mentioned, the recording will be on our YouTube, and I'll send you a quick email with that in case you want to kind of go through it again or share it with anyone else. But thank you very much for coming along, everyone, and hopefully see you soon.
Thank you all. Bye.